And my fingers are dancing. Get my body wet. Everything's moving. Get my body wet.
Hello, how you doing out there? Welcome to another edition of Platter Chatter, the music review show, the show that takes a critical, analytical look at music that's on the cutting edge of today's music scene. I'm Scott Goldfine, music critic for Silent Radio.
And I'm Malissia Simpson, and we're going to be doing the year in music.
That's right. We're going to count down our top 10s. We're going to give you our best new artist picks of the year and all kinds of other special stuff, including my special Grammy Award handicapping at the end of the show.
So stick around, because we've got a lot of good music coming up, and maybe you'll like some of the things that we do. What's on our agenda for today?
Okay, let's start it off. We're going to kick it off with my number 3 pick, and it's Pink Floyd's double live album. The band got rid of, Roger Walters split, and then the band got back together, and they put out this double live album, which has all their greatest stuff, even when Roger Waters was there, and it's done impeccably. It's called The Delicate Sound of Thunder, and the track we're going to listen to is called Comfortably Numb, Pink Floyd. Let's check it out.
And you were listening to Pink Floyd, The Distant Sound of Thunder. You know, every time I hear Pink Floyd, I think that I should be sitting in an opera house somewhere, listening to them play, because their sound is a very orchestral sound, and it's, you know, very expansive.
It's very progressive. David Gilmour's guitar work there, very emotional. He's not the fastest player in the world, but he's very emotional. Now that he's got control of the band, I think they're heading in the right direction.
Yeah. Now we're going to be taking you to a favorite of mine. It's going to be Prince. You're going to hear a cut off of his notorious Black album that was never released, and we're going to listen to a cut called Cindy C. Check it out.
Prince, The Black Album, and Cindy C, number 3 pick of my co-host Melissa. The Black Album, never released, so you're out of luck, but at least you got to hear some of it here. We're going to move on to my number 2 pick, counting down towards number 1, of course, and it's a release that's by Jimi Hendrix, and they took some tapes out of the vaults from when he recorded back in 1967 when he was just breaking onto the scene. He did these on the BBC in England. And it was a Monroe recordings. They took it together, they mastered the tapes and re-recorded it, cleaned it up, and it's really an interesting look at one of the most influential and amazing artists of the modern rock era. So it's called Radio 1. Let's check out Hear My Train A-Comin', Jimi Hendrix.
And that was Jimi Hendrix. You were listening to a cutoff of his album that was released called Radio 1. You know, it's interesting to me that a lot of these dead artists are, they're bringing things out of the vault. So another one I think that's coming out this year is going to be Roy Orbison, who recently passed away.
Well, he was just getting ready to put that out anyway. But it's true, you know, certainly when an artist dies, like a painter, you know, they try to dig up whatever they can. But in the case of Jimi Hendrix, it's certainly welcome because he sounds current today as far as I'm concerned. I mean, he was so far ahead of his time. They've got another Jimi Hendrix one coming out later this year. They're supposed to anyway, called Jimi Hendrix Live at the Isle of Wight. And that's going to be interesting to hear.
Well, it certainly will. Now we're going to go to my second of the top albums that I picked, of my top three. We're going to be listening to George Michael, who made a big splash with his album called Faith. And we're going to listen to the title track, Faith.
All right, here we are back in studio at Platter Chatter, counting down our top picks of the year. That was George Michael and Faith, the title cut from his LP, which had 6 top 5 singles. Amazing. Melissa's number 2 pick.
I love this album, and you know, this is a very timely show because if any of you were watching TV the other night, you would have seen the American Music Awards, and you know that George Michael walked away with 3 music
and
awards.
Surprisingly enough, in the R&B categories, where he won 2 of them.
Absolutely,
So
I think that's amazing.
he's really crossed over.
That's right.
All right, well, we're going to go to my number 1 pick. The suspense has been mounting, and it is Prince. Ta-da! It's a tie, actually, between Love Sexy, his released studio album, and the unreleased Black album, which was Melissa's number 3 pick. Prince, I've said it before, but it's true, he's just far and away still ahead of everyone artistically on the scene right now. And it's interesting because my number 2 pick, Jimi Hendrix, influenced Prince a lot in his style, his flamboyance.
That's true, yes.
Right? So we're going to listen to something off the Love Sexy album, and it is called Alphabet Street. It was the single. Prince.
You were listening to Alphabet Street off of Prince's latest album. That was Scott's number 1 pick. You know, this album really didn't do that well, even though it did go gold. And he recently, I understand, let go of his management team and took on Albert Magnoli, the one that did his first movie. I find that very interesting, but he's still on the cutting edge of music, and I see nothing but good things in store for him.
Well, you know, he puts out so much material, and yet right now he's cutting another album. The guy is just an endless source of material, and we saw him in concert at the LA Sports Arena. He put on a darn good show.
Oh, it was fabulous.
That's right.
We are now going to go to my number 1 pick of the year, my number 1 album. It's Keith Richards' Talk is Cheap. He has singing with him on this cut, Sarah Dash. Many of you will remember her from as one of the LaBelles from Patty and the LaBelles. We're going to hear a cut off of that called Rock a While.
That was Keith Richards and Rock a While. Of course, we didn't get into the main vocal part of that, but you can sense it's got that rhythmic bass, and the whole album's that way, very rhythmic, because he was the guy who set the Stones sound. I mean,
he set the pace for the Rolling Stones, and you know, I never really realized just how much of an influence he was. I mean, I like the Stones, I always have, and there's some of their cuts I like more than others. But when I heard this album, I really realized just how influential he was in taking the Stones to where they were. I think he's just a backbone, you know, aside from Mick Jagger doing the vocals.
Yeah, well, him doing this, finally, his first solo album in like 25 years, it definitely shows his stamp that he's left on the rock world.
Yes. Do you think they'll get back together again?
I understand that it's likely they will.
Well, that'll be nice.
You know, I mean, Mick Jagger's not going very far, and the other guys, you know, what are they doing, you know, except for whatever they do.
It's true.
The Bad Boys of Rock and Roll, the original.
Well, now we're going to go to our respective top tens. Scott, who are yours? I know you have some good ones in the store. I don't necessarily agree with them, but...
Okay. My top tens, starting from number 10. Of course, you heard the top three, but we're going to round it out. My number 10 pick, a brand new black hard rock band. The album's called Vivid, and it's by a new band called Living Colour, who's climbing up the charts right now. Look for them. My number 9 pick is Jesse Johnson, formerly of The Time, with Every Shade of Love. He had a hit single, Love Struck, off that. My number 8 pick, I may as well just hold this right up here, is AC/DC, veteran hard rock heavy metal band with Heat Seeker, their best album since Back in Black in 1980. Number 7, Bootsy Collins returns with his album called What's Bootsy Doing? And it's, of course, funky, and it's got that space bass. We reviewed it here. Darn good album. Number 6, very controversial, social, political, hard-edged, really hard-hitting rap album called It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back by the band Public Enemy. My number 5 pick, James Brown, the godfather of soul, who unfortunately right now is in prison.
Unfortunately.
That's a very sad state of affairs indeed. But anyway, his album called I'm Real, I felt possibly his best album ever, ironically, came out this year, the year when he's just gone down. Number 4, Rattle and Hum, U2, the Irish band, with their masterful 2-record set, half live, half studio, and from the movie of the same name, which was, I felt, a fair so-so film. And as you heard earlier, or if you just tuned in, my number 3 pick, Pink Floyd, Delicate Sound of Thunder, double live album by the veteran band. Number 2, Radio 1 by Jimi Hendrix from 1967 from England. And my number 1 pick, of course, was Prince, Love Sexy, and the Black Album, a toss-up between those two albums. Melissa?
Well, I'm going to start at the bottom with number 10. My number 10 album is Dirty Dancing, the soundtrack from the movie. The reason I like this so much is because I think that it, excuse me, really brought back dancing with two people together and not just one over here and one over there. My number 9 is Sting, his album Nothing Like the Sun. I think that he's always been fabulous. I think he's really very innovative in his music, and he's still out there. Number 8 is Terrence Trent D'Arby, who was new on the scene a couple of years ago with his album The Hard Line by Terrence Trent D'Arby. Excuse me. Number 7 is Prince and the Black Album. I need not say anymore, although those of you, I'm sorry, that haven't heard it.
That was your number 3 pick.
It was my number 3 pick.
Right, you just said 7.
7? Anyway,
you're on 7.
My number 6 album is Huey Lewis and the News with Small World. This was not a great splash, but it was kind of an unusual album, I think, and I really liked it a lot. Number 5, I picked Steve Winwood, his album Roll With It. A lot of you have seen his commercials, but I really liked that album. Number 4 was, I know you don't agree with this, Scott, was Rick Astley. New on the scene from Manchester, England, his album Whenever You Need Somebody. This is a young man who I believe has a great voice, who sings magnificently, and I really see good things for him in the future. My number 3 album, even though we did not have a clip of it, was Tracy Chapman, who is also new on the scene, and the album is called Tracy Chapman. Number 2, of course, is George Michael, his album Faith. And number 1, still number 1, is Talk Is Cheap by Keith Richards. I love that album. And if you haven't heard it, I would urge you to go out and listen to it because it's really fabulous. The entire album is good.
Okay, well, from someone who I think who worked for KTEL, putting together those pop hit collections, that was Melissa's top 10. I want to say honorable mention, records that I feel were deserving but didn't quite make my top 10. I'm going to run them down real quick. Back by the Ohio Players, Machismo by Cameo, Winter of '88 by Johnny Winter, Talk Is Cheap by Keith Richards, Tougher Than Leather, Run DMC, from the film of the same name that stunk up the place, Naked by the Talking Heads, OU 812 by Van Halen, GNR Lies by Guns N' Roses, Perfect Machine by Herbie Hancock, and Strictly Business by EPMD, a rap group.
I can't really believe that, knowing how much you like the Rolling Stones, that you gave Keith Richards honorable mention. I would think that he would be up there.
Maybe if the man could sing, I would put him up there.
And you think AC/DC can sing?
Well,
please.
Moving right along, my top 10 single picks for the past year, 1988, and these are in no particular order. Do you have single picks as well?
Sure, I do.
Okay, great. My top 10 single picks, Debut by EU from the movie School Days, Go-Go Influence from the Washington music scene, for those of you who don't know what go-go music is, and Debut. My Prerogative by Bobby Brown, the #1 pop hit.
Yes.
Born Not to Know by Tony, guys who were formerly with Sheila E.'s band and produced by Denzel Foster from Club Nouveau, and also formerly from Timex Social Club. I'm Real and Static by James Brown. The Way You Make Me Feel by Michael Jackson, kind of my nod to a pop-type sound there. Alphabet Street by Prince, which we heard a clip of this evening. Wild Wild West by Kool Moe Dee. Love Struck by Jesse Johnson. Wild Thing by Tone Loc, which is currently, probably, when you see this, will probably be #1 in the country. And finally, I Wish You Heaven with the Flip, Scarlet Pussy by Prince.
Yeah, if you haven't heard that one, that's one for you to check out. Some of my top 10 artists, and these are in no particular order either. Jesse Johnson, Love Struck. I really like that an awful lot. I wish that he would do more of that kind of music, because I think if he does, that'll really put him over the top and maybe give him some crossover action as well. Also, If It Isn't Love by New Edition. Even though one of the Bobby Brown left them, they're still just going strong. Nice and Slow by Freddie Jackson, who also won an American Music Award. Hall & Oates, Everything Your Heart Desires. I'm a die-hard fan of Hall & Oates, so whether you like them or not, I think they were really good. That album didn't do very well, but there's always hope for them. Gloria Estefan and the Miami Sound Machine, 1, 2, 3. Kokomo by the Beach Boys, who came back on the scene again. Now, I know that you're not a surfing fan, but I think the Beach Boys are really hot. Comment, Scott?
Constantly amaze me, Melissa. Go on.
Never Gonna Give You Up, of course, by Rick Astley. Roll With It, Steve Winwood. George Michael, One More Try, and Drive My Car by Tracy Chapman, who is new on the scene this year.
I believe that was Fast Car.
Fast Car?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Certainly. Okay, interesting single choices there.
Yeah, some of them I think you like. Not that it matters.
Maybe
to me
maybe
much.
10 or 20% I would say are listenable.
That's better than it usually is.
Okay, for our best new artist, I wish we had time to sit here and debate the merits of all those because I'd love to rip them to shreds. But we're going to go right on to the best new artist category. And my pick for the best new artist of the year is Jeff Healey, a blind 21-year-old white blues guitarist who's phenomenal. He plays with the guitar on his lap. And he put out an album that's promising, although it didn't make my top 10, certainly very good blues rock. And I think he's the guy to watch. My number 2 pick was Living Colour, who made my top 10 with their Vivid album, and also, of course, their Ones to Watch. Number 3, Tracy Chapman, the folk singer. Very promising debut she had this past year. Number 4, Tony, band out of Sacramento. And number 5, Tony Childs. And I just want to make a mention that Guns N' Roses and Joe Satriani would have made my list. They really made their big splashes this past year. However, their albums came out in '87.
Now, for those of you that don't know who Joe Satriani is, Joe Satriani was kind of discovered by Mick Jagger and played with him, I think, in his last concert. He has gone on to great success, and we're looking for more things from him. I only have one new artist pick, aside from Scott's top 5. Mine is Tracy Chapman, because folk singing, I think she has raised it to a new level, and I'm expecting more wonderful things from her in the future.
Well, she certainly brought back an awareness of that musical form, and
well, I think it
that's
was
a good thing.
needed. I really do.
All right, well, we're going to go right now to our special closing feature, excuse me, which is, I'm going to handicap the Grammys in the major categories.
Sure.
I did the American Music Awards recently, and I picked 13 out of 22. George Michael really threw me for a loop winning in the R&B categories.
I could have told you that.
But the Grammys are easier to predict, I think, than the American Music Awards. All right, in the category of Record of the Year, I'm going with Man in the Mirror by Michael Jackson. You'll have to watch the show to know what all the nominees are. We don't have time to run through all the nominees. I'm just going to say the winners. Album of the Year, George Michael and Faith. This is in the pop category. Song of the Year, Fast Car by Tracy Chapman. Best New Artist, Tracy Chapman. Best Pop Vocal Performance Female, Tracy Chapman and Fast Car. Best Pop Vocal Performance Male, Don't Worry, Be Happy, Bobby McFerrin. Best Pop Performance by a Duo or Group with Vocal, Kokomo by the Beach Boys. Pop Instrumental,
Yes.
Joe Satriani, Always With Me, Always With You. Rock, Best Rock Vocal Performance Female, Don't Walk Away, Tony Childs. Best Rock Vocal Performance Male, After Midnight, Simply Irresistible by Robert Palmer. Best Rock Performance by a Duo or a Group with Vocal, Desire by U2. Best Rock Instrumental Performance by Orchestra, Group, or Soloist, Surfing with the Alien, Joe Satriani. Best Hard Rock Metal Performance, Vocal or Instrumental, Injustice for All, Metallica. Best R&B Vocal Performance Female, Giving You the Best That I Got, Anita Baker. Best R&B Vocal Performance Male, Any Love, Luther Vandross. Best R&B Performance by a Duo or Group with Vocal, Love Overboard, Gladys Knight and the Pips. Best R&B Instrumental Performance, Reflections by George Howard. Best R&B Song, You Got Giving You the Best That I Got, Anita Baker. Best Rap Performance, Parents Just Don't Understand, DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. And finally, the Producers of the Year, L.A. Reid and Babyface. So those are my Grammy picks. Watch the Grammys on February 26th and see how I predicted them.
Well, Scott, may I say, raise my cup and hope that the year in music continues to be better and better and better.
Let me just say that we're looking for stuff from Janet Jackson, Stevie Ray Vaughan, possibly a Time reunion, you never know, AWB, Aerosmith, Prince, the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and finally maybe George Clinton and Funkadelic will get the heck out of the woodshed and put something out.
And also, aside from funk, as I mentioned earlier, Roy Orbison passed on, and I'm sure that they're going to release
His album's
an
coming
album
out as we
of his.
speak.
That's right, so that'll be interesting to see. A toast to the year of music.
We'll
we hope
see
you
ya.
enjoyed the show.
Bye-bye.
We will tell you how we try to always serve you well. Oh yeah. When we lay you out, we try to always play it well. Yeah. The party is a live one. Everybody's body's talking, snapping and cracking and jacking their backs like chiropractors cracking backs. Everybody's doing the jack. This is a live one.